Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 4 of What is Black Parenting Podcast. I'm your host, Jacqueline Duget, and I'm so grateful for you all joining me today for this special episode. This is a solo episode, so this is, I think, one of the first solo episodes I've done over the last 4 seasons. And I want to, just take the time out to since, I'm recording this the day after Thanksgiving, and just really reflecting on how grateful I am to have this platform, to share great guests and conversations with you all, and how especially grateful I am for you all listening to the podcast. When I see how many downloads I have, when I see the community that we've built across the social media channels, and also hear back from people about the impact of the podcast, it really does make me feel good, because at times it is challenging to think about this idea of really centering the conversation about race and children and being Black. Over the last last 2 years, given, what happened last year with the coronavirus and the protests for racial justice and racial reckoning last year, and now the backlash, some of the backlash that's occurred this year in politics and conversation and in different communities, it does sometimes become challenging, right, to talk about these topics. But I think it's important to have these conversations. Being a pediatrician and having the honor of, co-authoring a really important policy statement from the American Academy of Pediatrics about the impact of racism on child and adolescent health. That kids learn very early, right, about their racial identity, as well as gender, as well as other parts of who they are and what they're becoming very young. And as parents, we have, and I've said this, pretty often in other conversations that you may have heard from me, or even during the podcast episodes, right? I think, parents are kids' first teachers. And I want to provide a platform that empowers parents to have conversations with their children, but also, amongst themselves, amongst friends and other family members, right? So that we really create a culture, a community that, wraps around our kids and really emphasizes to them that they are loved, they're seen, they're important, they matter. And we want to help build strong children, strong families. However, your family unit, all families should feel encouraged and empowered to help their children grow, thrive. For me, again, this podcast is centered on Black families, supporting Black families so that we can raise thriving and healthy Black children across the spectrum, from very young to young adults. So thank you so much for this opportunity and this platform to do this work. And I try to do this work outside of the podcast as well, whether it's when I'm in practice or with colleagues, with family or friends. This is important to, and even as a mom, right? My children are now older, and thank you. We've grown together. I'm starting to realize, my youngest son, he will no longer be a teenager next month. And, it really, really gets me reflecting, right? And again, just going back to starting the conversation about why it is I started the platform, right? Why I started the podcast. And, for me, it really came down to this issue of how do I help my children feel good, comfortable, and loved in their identity as Black people, right? As Black men, Black individuals, knowing that that's not their only identity, right? But in our country, race is a fundamental way that we show up and identify ourselves. And I want them to feel good about I wanted them to feel proud of who they were becoming, right? So that when they were faced with bias, discrimination, racism, right, they'd have something foundational, right, to stand on, right, to buttress them from these assaults, right, these negative assaults and experiences. They were loved. They are loved. They are seen. They are heard. They are empowered to be all that they are. And I think, as a parent, I think we definitely want to make sure that we do as much as we can for our kids, but knowing that when they are growing up, right, they're becoming who they are meant to be, right? And at some point, they're no longer ours, right? Not that they ever were. We want them to become independent. We want them to become loving, kind, people that matter and make a difference, right? And I'm blessed to say that I love my kids, right? Not because they're my kids, but because they're strong men, because I just love my kids, right? I think I could not have wished for anything more than what they are becoming. And I am so interested, so excited to see their continued their path and growth as young men. And the same with the podcast. As I've grown with them, as they've grown with me, their support has made a difference as well. Being a mom and taking on this new role as a podcaster, a creative. And as you've noticed, and you've grown with me as well as a listener, I've evolved. The podcast became I published a middle grade book called Learning to Love All of Me last year in 2020. And the reason why I self-published that book was one, it was the book I wished I had growing up. I found out later in life that I was biracial, but I always identified as a Black woman. But growing up, looking the way I did, fair skin, many people, I got teased a lot and called, white girl. So I wished I had that book. So that book was really the book I wanted to read when I was younger. And also hopefully it would help other young families and especially young people who face issues addressing, dealing with their identity, racial identity, learning to love themselves. And that's why the book is called Learning to Love All of Me, because of who we are as individuals. We're not just one thing, right? There are multiple things that help us identify so that we can, everything comes really back down to identity, race being a leading way to identify. So that book was really to put out into the world something positive to help other young people and families have conversations about racial identity, self-love, esteem, family, and friendship. Because at the heart of that book really is friendship. The main character, Sydney, has two friends that are her ride or die and really make it easier for her to go through the world. And I think it always is easier when you have loved ones, family and friends to help you through, especially, being a young person. I think that peer relationship, that peer network is really essential to how you become whomever you're going to become. So I was excited for that project. And then a year ago, so now it's been a year, I decided to venture out and to become an entrepreneur and really think a little bit more about what I could do with the platform, right? So podcast, book, and, written blog posts and had guest bloggers. And so I know that I love media. I love watching television. Even when I was growing up, I could just think about how many hours of television I was allowed to watch, selective programming, but even that programming really influenced who I am today. And so with that love of media, with that love of a platform, that really is a great opportunity to educate families and kids, and maybe even entertain as well through education. I formed the umbrella media company, What is Black? So similar, same name as the podcast, but still, still with the same goal. I think with the ultimate same goal. How do I help kids feel seen and heard as Black people, right? And how can I help uplift this idea and affirm them in their racial identity and who they're becoming, right? And how they're identifying. So What is Black is a year old. I'm so excited. November is the month. We celebrate our first anniversary. So I'm starting to think about, where do I want to, how do I want to evolve again? And where am I taking the platform? So we're, planning right now for 2022. And as we're planning for 2022, our season 4, that's really the jump off for everything. And I'm looking forward to the rest of the season. So, our seasons, I switched our seasons now. We're now seasonally based podcasts. So we'll have 10 episodes per season. And this 4th season, we have 6 more episodes to go. And I think you're going to love the upcoming content as we're going into 2022. The other projects that I'm excited about, and I've mentioned, one I've mentioned a few times on the podcast, our upcoming documentary called Reading in Black, which is really rooted in celebrating Black children's literature. I had an opportunity to moderate a panel of authors. And, one of the authors, I think, did a great job of really putting it into context, right? Really why I wanted to create this documentary. Last year, 2020, there was this amplification and promotion of Black literature, Black writers, Black creatives. And as we've heard throughout 2021, there have been multiple states, school districts, boards of education, right, that are looking to ban books. And many of the books that are on banned lists address racism, social justice, and are created by Black authors and illustrators. So, we kind of have this change, right, in one year of amplification and 1 year of silencing and almost trying to erase the books that are being created for Black children or centered around Black characters by Black creatives. And so for me, the books and the creators and the content is enduring. And that was the theme of the moderated panel, was the fact that Black books are enduring. And why are they enduring, right? They're enduring because of the universality of the themes, the beauty in the artwork, the beauty in the prose, the beauty in the complexity, variety of the stories. And I want to celebrate that. I want to let people know that we have a long history of Black literature for children and those creators. I want to celebrate those creators and amplify those voices. I want to center our experiences, which again goes back to the heart of creating What is Black as a brand. So I'm excited about that project, and definitely more to come. And I'll share more details as they become available. But I'm excited about the possibility, which was really, and also going back to, the word of the year for me this year was possibilities, right? Exploring possibilities. And then the other project I'm excited to share, and again, more details will be coming soon, is that I'm working on a children's podcast. If I'm, going to create content, that's really centered around Black children, I figured I need to start creating content that's specifically directed to children. This particular podcast will be directed to preschool age children. And as we grow and expand as a brand, we'll be adding more content throughout the lifespan of childhood, adolescence, young adult. So we're really looking forward to that. And in the next upcoming weeks, we're going to be doing some IG lives, some behind the scenes where you'll meet some of the people that are instrumental in helping me grow and create the content for the What is Black brand. So excited. I think 22 is going to be a great year. And I'm excited. I know things are going to ebb and flow, but I'm so excited to be in fellowship and in community with all of you all that are listening and sending your positive vibes, and, your support makes a difference to me. I mean, it means the world to me. And I sincerely am in gratitude for everything, because without you all, without a place to work together and share, then What is Black wouldn't exist. And I'm looking forward to where we're going. And thank you for joining us for this journey. And I hope you and your family had a wonderful and peaceful and filled with gratitude and love Thanksgiving season. And as we're coming forth to the end of the year, and other upcoming holiday season, I'm wishing you well, wishing you love, peace, gratitude during this upcoming season. And we'll be talking more. December, we're bringing some other new great episodes. So I'm in the process now of scheduling and recording those episodes. So I look forward to talking with you all soon, and we'll be in touch in the next few weeks. Thank you for listening to this episode of What is Black podcast. Our music and editing for this episode is done by Manni Simon. And until next time.